According to Claudia. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Today's shiur is Le'ilui Nishmas Chaim ben Eliyahu. His neshama should have an aliyah, and the schus that we're all learning a class should give his neshama aliyah. Hashem, it should be as quickly as possible. Hikitzu v'ranenu shochnei afar. Mashiach should come, and we should meet and greet all our loved ones and the people that we were close with. And good morning, Gal. I want to say Mazel Tov to Gal on her new baby.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Is she letting you sleep?
Yes, Baruch Hashem, she's a very good baby.
Okay, she's letting you learn. So we have now a new member to our women.
Exactly. I can't wait for her to join. Bezrat Hashem.
Bezrat Hashem. And actually, this is one of the points I want to speak about today. Mothers bringing their children to classes and children's learning from a very, very young age. So she's getting it in her neshama. Well, she got it the 9 months, of course, and now even more so, hearing with her little ears, it's being Colette, so I have to be very careful.
That's true.
Even more so now, we're all have this big achrayus on this little child.
Exactly.
Baruch Hashem. You should legadla, letorah, lechuppah, ulemasim tovim.
Amen, amen.
Yeah. Amen. Yes. Okay, so today's class, we're going to continue with the ashet chil. And like I always start with the words such as hashgacha pratit. I think the day before what I'm going to talk about, then I sit down and look in the pasuk and I'm astounded at what I find, how it's so hashgacha pratit to the topic that I thought we will discuss. And sometimes it's even, like we saw Rachav and all the other psukim that we dealt with in previous weeks. I thought, it being that it's the week before Gimel Tammuz, a few days before Gimel Tammuz, today's Wednesday, and on Shabbat is Gimel Tammuz, Yom HaHilula of the Rebbe, the special day that we connect to the Rebbe in the purest way, without any machsomim and without everyone in his own way, but definitely a day that we concentrate and connect to the Rebbe. So I was thinking, we're doing ashet chil. Ashet chil is about women. So should I speak about the Rebbetzin and connect it to the Rebbe? How to connect it? Anyway, so I opened up the pasuk that we're up to. Nun. We did last week Mem, and I think we're up to Nun, if I'm not mistaken. Let me open it up. We did last week Lo Tira Beita, we did Yud, and then we did Mem last week. After Mem comes Nun. So here in Nun it says Noda b'she'arim ba'ala b'shifto im ziknei aretz. In English, her husband is well known at the gates as he sits with the elders of the land. Of all the psukim of ashet chil, that talks about her what she does, how she gives chesed, and how she is profitable, and how she works, and she works through the night, and what she wears, and how she takes care of the children. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, pasuk Nun talks about her husband. And it's like out of context in a way, that her husband is known, he's famous, he's well known at the gates as he sits with the elders of the land. And I'm thinking, wow, wanted to talk about the Rebbe, and I thought I'll find a pasuk or something and find a way to connect. Here, ashet chil tells me right away, you don't have to look. Her husband is well known at the gates as he sits with the elders. So I do want to start, I'll stop sharing for a minute, a little background of the time when the Rebbe became a Rebbe. Okay, so we're going back to Tafshin Yud, when Yud Shvat, when the Friedrich Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, was nifter, his stalkus. And the Rebbe was basically not unknown, but known to few. He was already in New York. He was a working man. Everybody knew that the Friedrich Rebbe loved him. And the previous Rebbe spoke to people and told people that you should know that under that gray hat and gray suit, like the Rebbe was like considered to dress modernly, and a university boy, there's a person who is bucky, knows Shas, Torah, the secrets of Torah, highly intelligent and highly versed, known, swimming in the seas of Torah, in the depth of Torah. The Rebbe purposely kept himself like behind the scenes, even though we know that the previous Rebbe right away appointed him as being heads of Tzach, at that time what it was, or Kehat, all different things, organizations that the Friedrich Rebbe started building and organizing in the United States and worldwide. The previous Rebbe appointed the Rebbe, and how he did the Yom, different things that the Rebbe did, but everything behind the scenes, unassumingly. And then when it happened, Yud Shvat, those that knew the Rebbe, or met the Rebbe in France, or in different places, right away connected to the Rebbe. And the few years that the Rebbe was in America, before the passing of the Friedrich Rebbe, many people connected to the Rebbe, the Ramash, as he was called, the Ramash, and right away said, the Rebbe has to be Rebbe. And the Rebbe said no. And a full year, the Rebbe did not become Rebbe. And I know from firsthand, my parents were then in New York. My father was a Bachar, a Russian refugee, learning in Lubavitcher Yeshiva, first time in Yeshiva in his life at the age of 20. And my mother was an Israeli girl, the first Israeli girl, maybe I once told you this, that came to the United States. Papers, affidavit sent to her by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. She left the day after the previous Rebbe was nifter. And when she came to America, she came to an orphaned group of Hasidim. Very few lived in Crown Heights. Crown Heights was a very, very aristocratic, high-class neighborhood that most of the Hasidim could not afford to live there. And she had stayed by a family there, and that's how she arrived to United States. And she was a little bit, as a girl, not involved, but she was involved as a 20-year-old, because her father was head of Chabad here in Israel as not head, but as the go-between. And the phone calls that were called to Israel, you had to order long-distance phone calls. So they used to tell her that they're going to call her father to hear what Hasidim are discussing and what they want in Israel. And they used to call him. Then after they finished talking to him, she was able to get onto the phone. Phone calls were very rare then and very costly, and you had to order them 24 hours in advance. Even I remember that, long distance phone calls. And it was interesting, the operators always stayed on, and you had to tell them beforehand what language you're going to speak. And they spoke to her father in Yiddish, and the minute she got on and switched to Hebrew, the operators used to disconnect the line. So she had to remember to stick to the language of Yiddish when she spoke. Anyway, so she was telling us how the people begged and gave and asked the Rebbe to become Rebbe, and gave the Rebbe letters and pidyonos, and he was very not excited about taking this undertaking of becoming the Rebbe. And who did at the end, towards the end of the year, push the Rebbe to become Rebbe was the Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka. And she made him a known person, exactly what we just said. Noda b'sharim bala. Her husband is known all over the world, is thanks to the Rebbetzin. She knew what will happen. She was the daughter of a Rebbe, a granddaughter of the Rebbe. She knew her grandfather. She knew what it is to be a Rebbe, and she knew what will be with the publicity and everything else. She pushed him to the forefront, and she took a back step, or actually, she continued her life as being the Rebbe's wife and not coming out to the public to be seen. It was important for her. Yes, people should know about a Rebbe, know who her husband is. Like she said at the trial of the books, my father belonged to the Hasidim. And when she said it, she also meant her husband, because she really knew what a Rebbe is, and a Rebbe belongs to the Hasidim. And so it's so fitting into the verse that we came to today to study. The Nun is talking about the husband. It doesn't even mention the ashet chil in this pasuk. It doesn't say anything about her. It talks about her husband. But what is it teaching us? Who she is. A man could only be like that if he has a woman behind him who knows his quality, who knows his shlichus in this world, who knows what her part is in the shlichus, to believe in him, to share him, to give him to the world, and it doesn't affect her identity. It's not al cheshbon. It's what she wanted. It's part of her shlichut also to share the Rebbe to the world. I did tell you the story. I don't know if I should repeat it. The story that I heard from the Rebbetzin herself. Do you remember? I told it, I think, Chav Bet Shvat. Should I repeat the story, or you all remember the story? Don't all answer at once. Okay. So I'll repeat it quickly, and if you remember it, just raise your hand, and I'll stop. It's a story. The reason I want to tell the story is because it fits exactly into the pasuk we just said. It says. I'll repeat what it says. Noda b'sharim ba'ala. Her husband is known. Where is it? Here. Her husband is well known at the gates. She'arim. We'll learn what that is. He sits with the elders of the land. Okay, which is so fitting. Okay, her husband is known at the gates, meaning all over wherever you go. So I just want to repeat a story I told you Chav Bet Shvat time without going into all the details. But when we were Chassan Kala, the Rebbetzin invited us to her home. She wanted to meet my Chatan, and my brother, Rabbi Chitrik, was then also engaged. So the Rebbetzin wanted to meet his wife and my parents. So we went to the Rebbe's house, the Rebbetzин's house, and I think I told you the details that my father spoke to her and said that the Rebbe is so well known, and this is before shluchim all over the world and internet and WhatsApp and everything else. We're going back 46 years ago. So she smiled and she told us the following story. She told us that when she was in university, there was no connection between lecturer, professor, and student. The teacher stood on a podium and spoke, and the students sat in front of him, like 120 students, and there was no connections. He didn't know them by name. And in one class, she asked a question, and he stopped. When he stopped, she asked a question. So he asked her, And I remember her saying, it must have been a good question because he like looked at her and asked her to identify herself. And he asked her, what's your name? And she said her name is Schneerson. And the Rebbe and the professor asked her, are you related to the great rabbi, the grand rabbi, the grand rabbiner, Schneerson? And she said, yes. So she smiled at us and she said to my father, we were always well known. My father and our ancestries were always well known, meaning she knows what it was to be well known, but she herself was confident enough that she didn't need that publicity. And she realized it was important for the men folks in the Schneerson family to be famous, to be well known and accepted in the world. And so this fits so well to the pasuk. Her husband is well known. He's not well known because he's also a Schneerson and the son of Reb Leivik and the son-in-law of the previous Rebbe. He's also well known as her husband. Her choice. The Rebbe didn't want. The Rebbe tried to break that. He wanted to be unknown, unassuming, not to be noticed. You know, I know there's some English people here on the class, so let me tell you a story that I read recently. And I was thinking I could really use this in the talks in a way. And I'll share it with you. I don't know yet how to use it. Maybe while talking to you, I want to, because, you know, whatever we hear or read, we have to use it to Avodat Hashem. And I read a very cute, somebody sent me a WhatsApp, I think, or I saw it someplace, that one of Queen Elizabeth's personal Mesharsim. You read that story, Malka? It's for Malka. I'm saying this for Malka or any other British. Simcha, you're here. It's a story from your land. One of her personal secretaries or something was walking with her in the park, and two American tourist boys, young boys, were there taking pictures, and they got to chat. And the Queen asked them what they like about England, what did they see, what did they tour, and they were talking to her, and the Queen and her secretary realized that they didn't realize that this was Queen Elizabeth. She was like just with him or something else, and then they asked her, "Did you ever meet the Queen?" And she says, "Actually not, but he did. He knows her." So they turned to him and they barged him with questions and asked, "How is she? What is she like?" And he said, "I told her she's smart, she's funny, she's nice, she has a sense of humor." And the Queen is listening, and she has a sense of humor. Well, he thought it was humorous that she didn't identify herself. Anyway, so these two young American tourists asked him if they could hand her the camera, and they say to her, "Could you take a picture of us with this man who saw the Queen?" And she very nicely obliged, and she snapped a picture, a selfie of a picture of them with her secretary. And then they wanted to be nice to this little old lady, and they called her and they said to her, "Come, join us in the picture." And she stood there with them, and they were telling her how excited they'll be to show all their friends in America that they took a picture with the man who knows the Queen. After they left, the Queen turns to him, this is his strength, says, "I'd love to be a fly in the wall when they show their friends the picture, and their friends tell them that this is the Queen, when they find out who I am." You know, so the Rebbetzin knew who the Rebbe was. The Rebbe wanted to be unknown the whole time. But the Rebbetzin realized that it's very important that the world realizes, Noda Basharim Bala, that the Rebbe should be known worldwide. So it's really, the Rebbe is known as because of her. Pasuk talks about her husband because of her. Okay, now let's look a little more into the details. I like the story with the queen, even though, it's not a Jewish story, but I like the story because sometimes we're standing next to holiness and we don't realize, and we go to the extension of that, to her secretary, or to people who serve her, who are in service for her, and don't realize you could really go straight to the king himself. Meaning, we could turn straight to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, turn straight to the king himself, and not to things around, etc. Okay, I think I could take that story very far, that we don't always see things that are right in front of us. Tourists meeting the queen and just speaking to the secretary, not realizing that the queen is standing right there and thinking she's this little old lady and asking her to take a picture of them, and how she was so obliging. Okay. So let's look more into the pasuk itself. It's interesting. The Medrash, there's one Medrash says that this pasuk, like I said, we also take it into other women. Here I took it to Reb Tzachai, Mushka Lekaved Gimel Tammuz. The Medrash say, some say it's talking about Michal, David's wife, that saved him always from her father. And she wanted that the world should know that she stands behind her husband, and she saved him, even though she was Shaul's daughter. And she married David, actually not by choice in the beginning. She was given to him as a prize for killing Goliath, but that she will not be used by her father anymore. She killed David, and to continue the dynasty through her and her brothers, but that she believed in David HaMelech. This is one Medrash. The Chida says that this is, remember we said that Ashet chil was written by Shlomo HaMelech about his mother Bathsheba. So the Chida says that here Shlomo HaMelech is actually pointing out to his mother Bathsheba, Noda Basharim Ba'ala. Bathsheba is the one that made David HaMelech famous, and she actually anchored his dynasty, and that people should believe in David HaMelech as king. We know that David HaMelech, all through his reign, was constantly being threatened by his children or by others, that maybe he was just the shepherd boy that took over royalty and dynasty. And Shlomo HaMelech here is actually proclaiming Noda Basharim Ba'ala. Her husband is well known because of his mother. And if you recall, we told the story that he wrote this Ashet chil after he built the Bet HaMikdash, and he married Bat Paro, and she covered the ceilings with black material and with the design of stars, so he should not wake up to open the Bet HaMikdash. And Bathsheba is the one that knocked on the door, woke him up and said, "My dear son, it's time to get up and open the Bet HaMikdash so the Kohanim could do their work." And he realized the difference between this wife that he took from Mitzrayim and his mother. And here he also said, the Medrash says, when he once wanted to come to the Bet HaMikdash, when he inaugurated the Bet HaMikdash, when he inaugurated the Bet HaMikdash, the doors did not open, the gates did not open. This is going back to the words that we read before, Noda Bashe'arim, by the gates. Which gates? the gates of the Bet HaMikdash, that when he went to open the gates of the Bet HaMikdash, they didn't open up, and he said, we know this Mizmor in Tehillim, Tze'u Sha'arim Rashechem, Pitchu, Pitchei Olam, and they did not open up till he said, Zichra lechadei David avdecha. Remember David, your servant. David prepared Har HaMoriah for Shlomo to build the Bet HaMikdash. The minute he said the name David, the She'arim opened up and let him in to the Bet HaMikdash. So by saying this, he made the whole Jewish nation realize that Hashem valued David, loved David HaMelech, and is the one that made David HaMelech Mashiach Hashem. So it's going back to David and Bathsheba. Others say that we could take this pasuk to other women, that in their merit, their husbands were known, and in their merit, we also merited to get the Torah, and to learn, and to and it's whatever we got from their husbands are really the schus of their wives. Okay, so we have in the story of Rabbi Akiva's wife, Rachel, that married a person who never learned Torah, very simple person, a Ben Gerim, and a servant in her father's home, a shepherd actually in her father's home, sorry, not a servant, a shepherd, a simple worker. And she is the one that had him go learn Torah for 24 years. 24 consecutive years. He became very famous because he had 24,000 students. And when he came back to Yerushalayim, when he came back, she greeted him and she was pushed away by her students. And he said the famous sentence, Sheli v'shelachem shelahu, mine and yours, all the Torah that we brought forth, all the Torah Shebal Peh that Rabbi Akiva revealed is really hers, really, really hers. This is Noda B'Sharim Ba'ala. It means the only way we got that was because he, Rabbi Akiva, was her husband. If he would have been married to somebody else, we would never have gotten all this Torah and limud of Torah Shebal Peh that Rachel gave to Rabbi Akiva. I also want to say the same thing goes on Michal that we mentioned before. Michal, he also sent David HaMelech after she married him to learn Torah. And he was also a shepherd. And Michal also, one of the Midrashim tells us that Michal sent David HaMelech, I have to find the source, 1 second. She once hid him while he was running away from her father. And she made a doll that looks like David HaMelech. They said that many women used to have dolls shaped and formed like their husbands in the time that their husband went to war, so they should remember they didn't have iPhones or smartphones with memory, with a lot of pictures. They had no pictures. So they used to make dolls that looked like their husbands, so they should remember what they, to keep them, to remember them, and not to forget them and to feel close to them. So she did that. I did have the source somewhere. 1 second. I'll soon find it. I wrote it someplace. Look in my notes. I did write it someplace. Anyway, David, she had such a doll. And once when Shaul HaMelech came running to kill David, she showed him the doll in bed sleeping. And she said, look, he's sleeping. But actually, she sent him off to learn for a long time learn Torah. So even the Torah that we have from David HaMelech is also in the merit of Michal. And going back to Rachel, Rabbi Akiva's wife, it says that he gave her a gift, a crown that said Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. And the Medrash says that that it is very symbolic because Yerushalayim, let me just read it to you from inside, that has everything, because Yerushalayim is Ir of Torah and Yirat Shamayim. That's why it's called Yerushalayim. It's the Ir of Yirat Shamayim and Torah. Ki mitzion tetzet Torah udvar Hashem Yerushalayim, meaning the word Yerushalayim symbolizes the whole learning of Torah. And he gave that to her as a gift to symbolize that the Torah that was kept and that he studied and that he taught and his 24,000 Talmidim taught, is all in her merit. So in a way, this pasuk is talking about the hidden job, the pnimi, not the external part of a person that's out there, that's more masculine, like when we discuss the difference between the masculine energy and the feminine energy. The masculine energy here is talking more about the masculine energy is outside, but it comes thanks to the inner energy of the woman, the behind the scene person that pushes the person that's supposed to be out there to do his shlichut, to do his job. Michal, you have David, you have Bathsheba, you have Rachel, how they tell them to go out. You could become famous. And they're the inner works of that famous person, Noda b'sha'arim ba'ala, that he is known. This is the job of the woman. Like we said, ashet chil, we're learning in 3 different levels. As a woman with her husband, Avram and Sarah, we said is the source for that. And as a mother of children, and children could be any children, our birth children, our friends, people that we have contact with, that we could say a word that will help them, teach them, study together. It could be our chavrutot, it could be our learning partners, it could be children we adopted in different classes and in different ways of our lives, and it could be the babies we just gave birth to. All these, there's children could be the fruits of our work. Children could be translated in so many different ways. And then it's our connection with Torah. So as wives, we spoke that it's the work and behind scenes of preparing the place, that he could go out, feel free to go out, to study, to know, to learn, and to do his shlichut, whatever it is, whether it's his job or whether it's his shlichut as shlichus, as a rabbi, as a working person, as a mashpia, whatever he does. That we enable, we believe, we support, we complement, all those things. Then we have the job as a mother, saying the good word, belief, whether it's in our friends, like I said, everything that's under the thing as a child. There's always any friend or any person that we know succeeded, there was somebody there that believed in them, whether it was a good friend, a teacher, a mother that said a good word, that knew that recognized the potential. We have on Rabbi Yoshua, this I'm saying, Lekaved Gal, with the new baby. On Rabbi Yoshua, which we read in Pirkei Avot, the Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai wants to compliment him. He says, Ashrei Yeladeto. Great is the person who gave birth to him. And the Gemara says that that his mother took him to the Bet Midrash. That here I could read it straight from the Bar Tanura. Al Shem shehi garma lo sheyeh chacham. She's the one that caused him to be smart, because she used to go. הייתה מחזרת על כל בתי מדרשות בעירה ואומרת להם. She used to say, go to all the Batei Midrash and say to the Chachamim there, בבקשה מכם, please, בקשו רחמים על העובר הזה שבמי שיהיה חכם. Pray that this child, this fetus that is in my womb shall be smart. ומיום שנולד, and after he was born, לא הוציאה עריסתו מבית מדרש. She did not take his crib out of the Bet Midrash, כדי שלא ייכנסו באוזניו אלא דברי תורה, that he should only hear דבר Torah. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he revealed it to the world, that Rabbi Yoshua is who he is thanks to his mother. It's belief, and it's not only belief, it is also doing things, not being passive, to daven, to give tzedakah, when we light candles, to pray for our children, to say tehillim for our children. I say for my children, Baruch Hashem, not always do I finish every day, because I also pray for others, but sometimes when a child's birthday, I thank them to going on to a new perek, a shorter perek, a more familiar perek, because some have quite difficult prakim till they have a birthday and it goes to a easier perek. And when I tell it to them, they like say, Ma, you're still saying it? I said, yes, I still pray for you guys. Just the knowing that it's not just saying, it's being active and this is what she was. Ashrei Yeladato, she went around thinking, what could she do to that her fetus, the baby that will be born, Bezrat Hashem, should be on a higher level. Now, we have the famous story that the Rebbe likes to repeat over and over again, and really put a lot of stress on this story, and maybe I'll find the video. I will send it. I think it was last week in Gem, about Kimchit. Kimchit was a woman that all her sons, 7 sons, were Kohanim Gedolim. Now we know a Kohen Gadol becomes a Kohen Gadol when the previous Kohen Gadol died. It doesn't mean that her children died, 7 children died, and that's why 7 children became Kohanim Gedolim. Oh, there's the baby. Fine. It means that they all were able to substitute for their brother who was a Kohen Gadol, that the minute maybe he had a psul or something happened and he couldn't couldn't work that day as the Kohen Gadol, there was always a brother ready in tahara, in purity, in mindset, in cleanliness, that was able and merited, and therefore they served. All 7 of them got to serve as Kohanim Gedolim, and also that therefore it made also that their children were able to be Kohanim Gedolim. And it's interesting that the Chachamim asked her, what did you do that you merited that 7 Kohanim sons of yours were able to be Kohanim Gedolim? And the Rebbe says, they didn't ask her husband. They asked her. That they realized that this was in the schus of the mother and not of the father. And she said that the rafters of my home did not see a hair of my head. And she spoke about her tzniut. And in schut of her tzniut, The Rebbe there really talks, in many of the Sichot, talks about the input of the mother on her children. And it fits very well with this pasuk because it's saying her husband is known, but she is not, which is fine for her. She is called Kvuda Bas Melech Pnima. Last week we were learning here in Israel, and the Simcha and Chutz La'aretz will be hearing Parshat Korach, and we have there the same story with Ben Pelet's wife that saved her husband from the Korach thing because she went outside. She did something chutza, contrary, by sitting on the porch and revealing her hair, and being that they were tzaddikim, they left and she saved her husband. Okay, so we have that in the level of a wife with her husband. We have it in the level of a child, mother to her children. And we have it in our connection as Jewish women with the Torah, that our mitzvahs are all really inside the house. We light the candles, we take off challah inside the house. We do not have to be in the minyan. We do not have to rush off to shul. We do not have to be in a minyan by the kotel. Our mitzvot are not public. Our mitzvot are more in the private domain. And it's something very contrary to the modern world, very contrary to the way things are now going out into the world, which started many years ago. And I did find a letter of the Rebbe, being that, like I said, I want to talk a little bit about the Rebbe in Gimel Tammuz, that the Rebbe said, we're now in America. In America, everything is advertisement, publicity, and man of the year, and everything out there that has value. Success is what is out there in the world, and we see, Baruch Hashem, that the world is opening up and saying whatever is out there is not 100%. It's not 100% truth. You see people getting famous and it doesn't hold water. People. I thought of this. There was unfortunately a pigua. What was it? One of the was he a soldier or a policeman? I forgot his name. That was killed. A father of children, and his wife spoke about his sniut, and everybody spoke about his sniut, and then they start saying what he accomplished. And you realize, wow, this man and this woman were so tznuim, but they were so smart, and they did so many things, and they were so strong, and they were so strong in their emunah, and they were so strong in their connection with people, and they were so strong with their connection with their family. And they weren't known, they weren't famous people. He wasn't a famous man. But by his levaya, thousands of people came and started, everybody said, oh, I knew him. He helped me in this, he helped me in that. And all of a sudden, his wife said, I didn't realize he was so famous, but he wasn't. He was so unassuming. They described he had the junkiest car, simplest house, everything was simple, everything was plain, and everything was internal, everything was within the family, and done quietly. And later, after Shiva, the wife said, I didn't know a quarter of the things that he did. I let him be him. I didn't try to change him. He wore the shlochiest clothes. He liked simplicity. He didn't like publicity. I read about, we do have a soldier that his picture is not allowed to be shown, Emmanuel Moreno. And now the government says that his picture could be shown already, that enough time passed that they're not afraid that if his people, the enemies would know who it was, it'll backfire for our country. And his parents preferred to keep his picture unknown. They said, this is his identity. And the mother, I read an unbelievable thing. The mother, after they were told that he was killed, she said to her husband, who's going to come to Emmanuel's levaya? Nobody really knew him. He was such a quiet, unassuming person. We might have to get 10 people to come to the levaya. And when she went out to his funeral and she saw the thousands of people that came to his funeral, she said, wow, I didn't even know that he was famous, that the world knew about him, that what he was. I thought he was my quiet son. And then she goes, during Shiva, I realized of all these things that he did and how important he was for our country, and how his wife believed in him and let him be, and just let him do what his shlichut in the world was. She says, I was afraid nobody's going to show up because nobody knew him. And this is noda b'sha'arim ba'ala, that sometimes when people are famous, somebody believed in them, somebody let them be themselves and let them be who they are, and therefore they were able to give to the world. And I think Gimel Tammuz is a time, I remember by the Rebbets in Shiva, people they taped people trying to comfort the Rebbe, and people saying things. Now nobody knew the Rebbetzin. Nobody saw her. Last week, the Rebbe's niece, I don't know if you know, the Rebbe's niece showed up to a wedding in Kfar Chabad, and somebody took a picture and it went viral. And my kids sent me the picture and they said, Ma, do you know who it is? I said, yes, I know who it is because I met her. So they said, Ma, her picture is going viral. And I said, and we both know she's not going to like it. She's very, very private. I met her as a young girl. The Rebbe has a niece, his brother, Yisrael Arya Leib's daughter. She lives in Rehovot. Her name is Dalia. On Gimel Tammuz, let me just take you back 26 years, Gimel Tammuz, when it happened, I went to the airport. I drove my husband to the airport and I said, just take any plane and just get to New York. And he took a plane to England and then he came and got to New York, and I stayed at the airport and nobody was coming. I thought maybe it's not true. And I just sent my husband off without. And then Chassidim started coming and a charter plane left, and I got onto that plane. I want to tell you that I was expecting. I came from my gym class. My husband called me to my gym class and just said, Baruch Dayan Emes, and I just stayed in the car and just drove him to the plane. And I was still wearing my gym pants underneath and my gym outfit under my maternity skirt and top. And I took my son with me, and I joined the Chassidim. We were 5 women or 6 women on the plane. And I came to New York. And my husband saw me at the Ohel, and he said, I knew you'd come. And anyway, on the way back, I sat next to the Rebbe's niece. And I told her, you could be so famous. You're the Rebbe's niece. She goes, I don't want it. I said, I know. So I said, come to a kenes of Neshei Chabad. I won't tell anybody who you are. Nobody will recognize you. Believe me, nobody will know who you are. I want you to see what the Rebbe did. I want you to see what Neshei Chabad is. You would be so proud of us, and you will be so proud of your uncle. So she says to me, I am proud of my uncle. I know what just like the Rebbetzin answered me so many years before, we are famous. She goes, I don't need it. I read everything. I have everything. I'm told. I know. I don't need anybody to know. And it was like so powerful, so powerful. that I said, you know, if I'm not a good reporter, I'm not a good journalist. I'm sitting with you for 12 hours. I have millions of questions, but I'm not going to bother you. And protected her privacy. And later she told me, thank God you sat next to me. If I would have sat next to somebody else, I would have had 12 miserable hours of somebody trying to get at all family information, et cetera, et cetera. I just asked her 2 questions. If she was kept up to date with the Rebbe's situation, she goes, yes, she knew exactly, and she's very happy with the care that the Rebbe had and it was given, and she's thankful to all of us and to everything, and to all the children that are named after her. Mother, a grandfather, father. Her father was Yisrael Aryeh, but that time I did not have grandchildren named after him, but now I do. I have 2 grandchildren named after him. And she says, and thank you for protecting my privacy. Which was very, very, you know, heartwarming, because I felt like an idiot sitting there right next to her, like, you know how you sit on the plane, and thinking if somebody else smarter, better, would have maybe used the time better, but I didn't know what to say or what to do. And I was actually upset this week that her picture went viral, but you know, but maybe things change and maybe things are different. Anyway, there is something very, very strong in being a private person and appreciating and letting others be what they are and believing in them. This was part of the Schneerson personality, which also teaches us something else, even contrary, opposite of what I just said. The Rebbe was a private person, but the minute the Rebbe became Rebbe, he pushed himself out of his box to bring Mashiach, became public, which is contrary to his nature. And he said it himself. The Rebbe said it himself many times, but he realized that that's the only way he will get Lubavitch out there. And for years, as a child growing up in Crown Heights, we knew that Rebbe did not let pictures being taken. And then one day the Rebbe made that switch. Either he was told from above, or he realized the world changed and you need pictures and you need videos, and cameras were allowed into 770. The Rebbe Tzachana's Levaya, the Rebbe did not let cameras. And then things changed. Things changed. And I think also for us women, yes, we have to continue to be connected to the Kvuda Bas Melech Pnima, being more behind scenes, behind the lines, internal. But the Rebbe also taught us, push your box a little bit. If you could go out there in a womanly way, with the feminine energy, not being men and everything else, with the tzniut of a woman, with the strength of the woman, with the words of women, we're talking like women, it's time to go out there. The Rebbe pushed us out there, like he pushed himself contrary to his nature, but as a man, as a Rebbe, as a Chassidish person, keeping the old-fashioned ways, but out there. I think this should be the lesson of this class. Whoever has talents, whoever has things that knows Aleph should teach Aleph. Whoever knows Beis should teach Beis. Everybody could put themselves into a mother position, into a child position, and in the Torah position of connecting people in a motherly way, in a way of a spouse, in the way of Torah as a teacher, and taking all these 3 lessons of bringing the inside a little bit out, bringing the internal strength of a woman to the outside world. This will be my lesson of Gimel Tammuz. I'm just sharing my hachlata, to push myself a little bit out of the box of things that I don't like to do, and to do in a way of a woman to the outside world. Okay, everybody, we should be zeicha to see everybody, Chaim ben Eliyahu with the Rebbe, marching towards the Geula Techef Umiyad Mamash. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much, Robertson.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.